Hey everybody, welcome to Local Business Hacks Podcast. I'm your host, Carl Case, and I'm on a mission to help you. Every week, we're going to be talking to local business owners and experts to get their best tips, tricks, and hacks to grow your business. This show is designed to teach you, inspire you, and motivate you to take massive action and start to build your future-proof business. Whether you're just starting off or you're taking your existing business to the next level, this episode is for you. So let's get started. Good morning, everybody. Carl Case, your host for Local Business Hacks, joined this morning by Brett Knopf of KnopfKnows Solutions. Brett, good morning. Thank you for joining us. Tell everybody who you are and a little bit of background in yourself, please.
Great. Thanks for having me, Carl, and appreciate you and Referrizer for having me on today. As you mentioned, my name is Brett Knopf. My company is called KnopfKnows Solutions. I am a performance coach and business strategist. So I work with individuals and small to mid-sized businesses, think 5 to 150 employees, $25 to $30 million in revenue, to help them create work environments where people actually want to be there, putting their best foot forward, creating systems and procedures that go from the inception point of recruiting, hiring, all the way through to personal and professional skill development, performance reviews, sales processes, and all the like. So I found that over 20 years of leadership and sales management, either as an internal employee or as a consultant, a lot of these things are missing. A lot of people are dissatisfied with work. A lot of leaders haven't received the appropriate leadership training because those processes don't exist. So it's kind of a free-for-all, and people are having a really difficult time recruiting and retaining talented employees because talent realizes that they can either do it themselves or they can identify leaders and organizations that are invested in their personal development, do care about them on a personal level. So my aim is to really make sure that we create these environments so that business owners and leaders can run successful businesses in a fun and productive way, and individuals are not stuck in these work environments where Sunday night rolls around and they start freaking out that they have to wake up for work the next morning. Mission is to eradicate that to the best of my ability and bring everyone along for the ride that wants to play.
Awesome. Well, thank you for the intro. I know that you're located in Long Island, but tell me, who is your ideal client and where are they located? Do you have barriers to that?
No, it's been interesting. So I spent, like I mentioned, 20 years in leadership and sales management positions. Tavern on the Green, which at the time was the highest grossing restaurant in the country. I've worked with Equinox, one of the industry leaders in health and wellness, started my own search engine marketing optimization company in South Florida back in the mid-2000s as Google was first coming to prominence. So I say all that to say, I have a lot of experience in the coaching and consulting and speaking realms. And the people that I gravitate towards and gravitate towards me are really the growth mindset type of individuals, because a lot of what I do is industry agnostic and individual agnostic. I label myself a performance coach and a business strategist because I'm going to look to meet people where they're at based on first identifying what it is they want to do, whether that's individually or organizationally. So we have those concrete goals, but then creating the strategic planning so that day after day, you're driving as linearly as possible towards those intended, clearly defined outcomes. So it becomes a little difficult for me to quickly distill down ideal client, a target audience, because I'm really able to be that person to a lot of individuals and organizations. And if I'm not, I'm also tremendously well networked, so that if I don't have the answers for you from a business strategy or performance coaching perspective, I'm going to say, hey, go talk to Carl, go talk to Jamie, go talk to Lou, and they are going to potentially be a better fit from a solution perspective for you. So that's really a long-winded way of explaining the fact that I can be a lot to a lot of different people and organizations.
I love that. Thank you. I see behind you, my guru is behind you, the Tony Robbins Life Force book.
Oh, yeah.
That's my performance strategist that I go to a couple events a year. For those of you that are listening that don't understand the reason as to why you hire a consultant, I always tell people I'm able to learn. And with you, it would be 20 years of lessons and learnings and experiences into, a few hours, days, weeks, months of working with a consultant and a performance strategist. So Brett, thank you for that intro. You talk heavily in the beginning about hiring and the importance of having the right team. What are some tips, tricks, and things that you've experienced that you can share with our audience from how do we make sure that we get that right person in the door in the first place?
Yeah, it's a really great question. And for an organization, the best way to go about making sure that you are getting the right people in the door to begin with is to know exactly what the right person looks like as it relates to your core values, as it relates to what your top performers are exhibiting as far as their character traits or their skill sets. And not just from a productivity standpoint, but from a culture fit standpoint, equally, if not more so. In order for people to want to come into work, especially now where remote is a huge piece of the puzzle, to get them into the office, you got to create a culture and a work environment that people enjoy being a part of. Create a team dynamic where there's collaboration and there's camaraderie. And I know that when you have a clear understanding of these things, both the hard skills and the soft skills, and you are tailoring your recruiting and interviewing to make those determinations based off of what you've seen and crowdsourced for what it's worth within your organization to put together those values and those characteristics. Now you're hiring from a specificity standpoint rather than just this overgeneralized approach without having a clear-cut picture of why and what you're looking for to begin with. So if you can get that right, and then from there have a very clearly laid out and documented onboarding process, have a clearly laid out and documented continuing development process, mentorship process, like I already mentioned, performance review, merit increases, sales, these things have to be very clearly laid out, because in order to grow and scale and keep people engaged, there has to be clarity and specificity involved in these things, because without that, you're taking a freestyled approach and leaving a lot of things to guesswork. And talent is going to recognize that and not want to be part of that. People running around like chickens with their heads cut off type of deal, or not having direct, clear line to how to progress in their personal and professional career.
For those of you listening that don't have those processes, procedures, onboarding steps in place, Brett can help you. It's definitely an interesting topic. So I appreciate that. I guess, Brett, if you can, tell me a story of a turnaround that you were able to do, or something that inspired you to continue doing what you do.
Sure. When I worked at Equinox, I essentially acted as a regional consultant. They called me fixer, because I'd turn around operation, get to these heights that they hadn't seen in many years. And they'd say, okay, let's go to the next one that can use help. And it's funny because I remember specifically, I was working in Chelsea in Manhattan, or I had just been brought in to fix that operation. And they were achieving about 70% of their targeted goals at that point. And a lot of that came down to the fact that they had a ton of internal turmoil. And I don't think that's unusual to a lot of companies, where the break rooms or the water coolers become gossip factories. And it just, the numbers oftentimes have a direct correlation to the behaviors on the back end there. Understanding that, one of the things that I did in that situation, and I've gone on to do in all of my coaching and consulting opportunities thereafter, even in public speaking engagements, is I believe very much in the Ray Dalio approach of radical transparency, radical openness, and that idea meritocracy. So in that instance, I went in there, and early on, I just first got to know all of the individual players. I talked to them not about business. I talked to them about themselves. What's going on? What do you like? What don't you like? What motivates you? Really dial in on the specific thought process and the specific emotional connection to the job that each of these individuals had. And from there, in a public setting with all 50 employees at the time, I said, okay, I've heard any number of things from individuals. We're going to get this all above board, because anything that you're going to say behind the scenes, you got to be willing to say in public. And that can be direct criticisms and critiques of myself as well. I'm not immune to that. So we're going to go one by one, and you're going to say out loud what you like, what you don't like, and we're going to start to work our way through this. And by having that radical transparency and showing that I wasn't above the fray either, people started slowly coming out with the things that could, what I'll call, begin the healing process. And then as we started navigating our way through it, there was more and more openness. And I'm not going to say all of it was, rainbows and sunshine. There was plenty of contentiousness, but as a leader, being that neutral arbiter and really helping people work through that and collectively getting everything above board, I can't stress enough the importance of that in an organization, because without that, you're just going to have these cracks in the foundation that poison the well. So from a recruiting and retention standpoint, it's, people coming in are now starting to hear all the gossip and the drama going on, where if it's above board and you're coaching people to either stay above the fray, above the line, or perhaps this isn't right for you, if these are things that are not working for you, you're better off probably going and doing something else. Now you start to have the cool kids sticking around and gravitating towards each other, and the people that are continuing to be unhappy, they're marginalized, and they'll either leave on their own or they'll be very easy to identify and move along. So, circle it back to that example. We went from 70% when I came in to 112% in 3 months, primarily through that approach of transparency and openness and getting everything above board.
And people are ultimately your backbone in your business. And if you don't have those people that treat the business like it's their own and have that desire, it's nearly impossible to achieve your goals. And if you are achieving your goals with those problems, I don't think you have the right goals.
Correct. No, you're spot on. It is the people. I know that sounds cliche, but it's missed. And I think there's an overgeneralized approach to leadership in a lot of cases, where in reality, you really need to dial in on each individual. Like I said, what motivates you? What gets you jacked up? What do you need from me to help make your job easier? What's going on personally? What have you got going on externally? Great. How can I support you there? I'll tell you, Carl, no one's ever worked for me. They've always worked with me.
Same.
And I think that's a huge distinction ultimately, because I don't want to be hitting people with the cattle prod to get them to do their job. It's either you want to or you don't. And if you said this earlier, slow to hire, quick to fire. And the quick to fire thing to me is identifying if it's a skill issue or it's a will issue with the employees. If it's a skill issue and they need that continued skill development, but they're trying to get better, they're coming to us for education and feedback, and they're at least putting forth the effort, always going to be patient with the results of that. They're doing it with a good attitude and really taking care of the people next to them. It's the will issue, folks, that you have to be quick to move along from. Because I'm sure any business owner or leader listening to this out there has had instances where your employees have said, yeah, I want to do this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. But their actions do not back it up. And they're the ones that are going to be complaining about leads or you being mean or whatever the case may be. And those are the folks that you have to be quick to move along from if they're not showcasing that will to get better and be a good teammate and team player.
And something that internally with Referrizer, that I'm really proud of is that our CEO's title is Chief Energizing Officer.
Love it.
And that's a testament to who we are and our culture inside of our organization. We have employees in 12 different countries. We have customers in 10 different time zones, and we get together at least twice a year, everybody in a middle ground, and have a team building with our family and with everybody, to where we all get together and get to know each other on somewhat of a personal level, because it's important. We are people and we're a people first company, and putting people in the right position and supporting them in all aspects of their life, both personal, financial, and business, is super important. Otherwise, should look to hire a robot to do that job. And as scary as that is, we're getting to that world.
It's not that far-fetched.
I know. I don't like even talking about it. My car drives itself, and that's enough for me at the moment. Awesome. Well, Brett, we're almost out of time. If there's anything you want to say before we wrap up, now's the time to say it. But I honestly, I love everything that I've heard so far today. This is a topic that you nailed it on the head. Since the pandemic, it's been beyond important to focus on personnel. The restaurant industry, for starters, I read a study that was done by one of the largest point of sale companies in the world, NCR, who did a study inside of their restaurants, and they said that 55% of the restaurant employees had left. And of the 45% that were left, over 30% of them were actively looking for careers outside of the restaurant space. So, what does that say to you, restaurateurs? Incentivize your employees, give them a path for growth, and, make sure that you have that person in the right place. Because if not, you could find them at the next Amazon warehouse or delivering something or whatever it may be.
That's spot on. You can't do the square peg round hole thing as an employer. You have to be clear cut in what the specific hard skills and soft skills are that comprise elite performance in any role. And when you do that, now you're going to be much more targeted in your approach of who you're bringing in the first place, much more, thorough as that gatekeeper. And I'll say for employees out there, ask those questions, or if you're interviewing, ask those questions of the interviewer to see if they have their ducks in a row, if they know what their elite performers are doing in the role that you're interviewing for. Without that, then just don't jump at a paycheck just to get a paycheck. There's a lot of opportunities out there. And you mentioned Tony Robbins, and I've got this library. There's so many resources out there for all of us, free all the way up to, really exorbitant price tags. Find the people that are excelling in the areas that you want to excel in and reach out to them, study them, try to emulate them, get yourself a team around you so that you're not flying solo, so that you're shortcutting the process to whatever it is that you're looking to accomplish personally and professionally. Sure. And you're going to be pleasantly surprised to see how many people and resources are there that are going to help you avoid a lot of the pitfalls. My coach, David Meltzer, he tells me, paying the dummy tax. I paid the dummy tax.
Yeah, I've paid it too many times.
Many times. So I want to help you and anyone else avoid that, or at least, alleviate the pain of falling on your face along the way. So that's really it. This has been great. I love what you guys are doing over there. Chief Energizing Officer. I love that.
He even, here's another shout out to you, Andre, when you listen to this, is when we hold interviews inside of our organization, it's actually us not asking any questions. We ask the potential employee to ask us questions, and it's an interview from them to us.
Wow.
So that we can answer those things. And, it's a really easy way to tell if somebody's asking right questions or they go, I have no questions for you, right then and there if they're a good fit for you. And it's amazing to learn. So it's truly awesome what we got going on here. Brett, I appreciate your time more than you know. That's a wrap for this week's Local Business Hacks podcast. Be sure to check out next week's episode at local-business-hacks.com, or check us out on all podcast platforms, Local Business Hacks. Thank you, Brett. And hope to see you on another episode in the future.
Yeah, really appreciate it, Carl. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That's it for this week's episode. I hope you found it helpful. Be sure to head over to our site, local-business-hacks.com, to check out the show notes and send me questions or ideas for future episodes. If you want to grow your business just like the people you've heard from here, Follow Local Business Hacks Podcast and tune in for new tips, tricks, and tactics. Until next time, thanks for listening and keep hacking.